Hi everyone, I am Caroline Fleur and I am going to read chapter 1 of my book, Destiny and Other Dilemmas. And I'm excited about this because I've been meaning to do it for a while. And so since I live in North Texas and this book takes place in North Texas, I decided to go full out, all the Texas stuff I could think of that people imagine. Number one, I have on a cowboy hat, which looks a little bit strange, but they always look weird in a Zoom call type video, so I will take it off. And I put on a lace shirt because you have to. And I was sure to put on some rustic cuff bracelets. I say we break some of the stereotypes and admit that people don't run around wearing a cowboy hat. I'm going to take it off. That did wreck my hair a little bit, but I think I recovered. I think we're okay. So first, I am going to read the blurb on the back of my book, which is the short summary. And then I will move to chapter 1. But first I would like to say that I really enjoyed writing this book and I had my own vision of how I wanted it to play out. I wanted the tone to change as the reader went through chapter to chapter because I wanted the reader to have the same feelings and emotions as the main character. And the main character starts out not in a great place. It's not a terrible place, but it's not a great place. And as she comes across challenges and obstacles and interesting things throughout the book, her mood changes, the tone changes, and I think the reader's emotions change as well. So this should be interesting. So here is the blurb on the back. Nothing is written in stone, or is it? Brooke Stern seemed to have the perfect life until she didn't. After an unexpected turn of events that shook her marriage of 15 years, she must navigate her new normal as a single, independent woman. Juggling her son's food allergies, her demanding career, and a growing interest in a mysterious man, she's determined to restart her life and find a clear path ahead. When she finally reclaims her courage, she is confronted with the harsh consequences of her choices. Any step forward is a potential risk as she tries to make the best decisions for herself and the future of her family. That is, if destiny doesn't step in and decide for her. Destiny and Other Dilemmas, Chapter 1. The interesting part about life is that a seemingly innocent weekend can shift so drastically, it becomes a dot on a person's developmental timeline. Instead of passing by with no specific memory of what took place, it becomes the time that separates the before and the after. Before that weekend, I was married. After that weekend, I was single. The tricky part was putting the pieces of a life together after the weekend so that I could keep placing new dots along the timeline of my life. For many people, weekends meant relaxation and meditation, but not in the Stern household. For our dual income home, weekends were simply 2 additional workdays filled with homework, shopping trips, housework, paying bills, home maintenance, and anything else that popped up. It was Saturday in November, and Keller and Nicholas were outside tidying up the backyard. Nicholas carefully removing leaves from the pool, as carefully as a 13-year-old can, while Keller, my husband of 15 years, sprayed down the patio, occasionally spraying our son for fun as well. November in North Texas meant anything from cold weather that required a coat to temperatures warm enough for shorts and t-shirts. It also meant the air was thick with ragweed pollen. In DFW, many people's allergies were worse in the fall than spring due to the dreaded and dreadful ragweed season. We were enjoying a warm November, but that was about to change. The temperatures had climbed into the upper 70s, which had prompted the quick patio and pool cleaning spree to prepare the backyard for winter. Sometimes the pollen was so thick it left a yellow residue on anything exposed to the outside elements. This morning there was no obvious pollen layer, but I could see a yellowish-green line at the edge of the water as Keller moved the sprayer across the patio. I was inside folding laundry, watching through the large windows facing the backyard. Sometimes tasks like folding clothes and putting up towels were a type of stress relief for me. As I started the pile of washcloths, images from the past few months flashed through my mind. Keller had began working late at the TV station or staying in his office when he did come home. Lately, I had been swamped at work as well, and I still had dozens of legal contracts to review for the upcoming holiday commercial season. Neither of us had much time to check in during the day like we used to do. When I did text him, I struggled to find things to say, usually falling back on something having to do with our son. Even then, Keller usually seemed distant and preoccupied. He was slow to respond to texts, and when he did, it was often a one-word answer. Me. I took Nicholas to school. He will be staying late for Student Senate. Keller. Okay. When we were getting along, it was like we were two roommates making an effort to be very polite. Other times, Keller seemed irritable or even resentful, as if anything that was going wrong in his life was somehow my fault. He hadn't said that outright to me, but it was the sense I had been getting lately. I remembered last week's attempt at changing the atmosphere in the house. "Where's my bright blue polo shirt, Brooke?" Keller asked, rifling through the clothes I had neatly hung up for him. "I need it for the Veterans Day brunch at work." I peeked my head into the closet, ready to help. "I put it in a tub in the guest bedroom closet," I answered. "It's a summer shirt." "If you haven't noticed, it's still warm outside," he snapped as he strode past me and down the hall. I trailed behind him, trying to discern whether he was upset or just busy. "I took down our winter clothes so we wouldn't have to do it this weekend," I stated, unsure why this was a bad thing. "Can't you just wear a different shirt?" "Yes, but that shirt's a patriotic color and it doesn't show sweat if I get too hot in the sun," he replied, clutching the tub and carrying it back toward our bedroom. "Oh, sorry about that," I offered, watching him silently place his summer shirts back onto the hangers. No response. I shook my head at the memory, still not understanding his irritation. "Yesterday, I happened to walk past the front windows of the house and noticed Keller's SUV outside. He was parked 2 spaces down in front of our neighbor's house, talking on the phone. I thought it was strange, but I went back to what I was doing. When he came inside, I didn't mention it to him. For some reason, I didn't ask him personal questions anymore. Part of me didn't even care what he was doing. But today, as I watched Keller and Nicholas outside, the uneasiness lifted. They were working together to make our backyard a place we might actually be able to relax. I sensed an opportunity for us to do something as a family. The water was too brisk for swimming, but being outside together was an option. I abruptly stopped folding laundry and smiled. I would make brunch. People liked brunch. It was fun and not something people ate every day. It was 11 on a Saturday morning, so it was the perfect time. I had to adjust the menu a little bit because of our son's food allergies, but all the ingredients were on hand. I opened the pantry and got to work. Moving swiftly around the kitchen, I selected the gluten-free flour and coconut milk for the pancakes. Then I grabbed the pint of strawberries from the fridge that had smelled so good at the market, raised them to my nose, and inhaled. Smiling, I set them on the counter. They still smelled like summer. I rinsed them off, then set them aside for chopping. We would have bacon, pancakes, and fruit, and Keller and I could have coffee or mimosas since a quick check revealed we had champagne. We could even eat outside on the patio. I turned on the radio and scanned my saved stations, stopping on a local country station that was playing some upbeat songs I liked. I practically danced from the island to the cooktop as I finished stirring the batter and started pouring it onto the skillet. Just when I began to chop the strawberries, taking time to carve them into lovely straight slices, Keller and Nicholas came bounding in the back door from the patio. "Hey guys," I greeted them. "The patio looks great," I said to Keller. He nodded as he closed the door behind them. "Thanks for your help with the leaves," I complimented Nicholas. "No problem," he said, smiling as he slipped off his flip-flops and grabbed a strawberry. He disappeared into the living room and up the stairs to change as Keller walked into the kitchen. "What's all this?" Keller asked. His eyes scanned the counters, which were in various stages of food preparation. "Brunch," I said, my voice reflecting my genuine happiness. I stopped what I was doing to look at him, waiting for my affirmation. "I am not eating any of this," he said firmly, his eyes hard. Although his face had very few lines for being 40 years old, his brow was creased as he frowned at me. His mouth was slightly open like he might say more, but hadn't yet. I locked eyes with him, realizing this was not a joke, and it definitely was not an affirmation. "Oh," I quietly breathed out, confused. "Why?" I asked weakly. "Because this is not a beautiful fall meal," he answered in a calm, direct voice. He had enunciated each word as if to be sure I understood them. I did, though the meaning was lost on me. I just stood there staring blankly. I should have reacted. I should have scowled at him defiantly, asking all the obvious questions. What? How could you speak to me like that? Or more to the point, what in the hell is a beautiful fall meal? Or better yet, how did our marriage get to this point? Instead, I stood like a statue, expression blank. This was the end. I could not bring myself to have any more feelings about this man, good or bad. He was not the person I married. I didn't know who he was. Surprisingly, I felt nothing. I wasn't even angry about what should have sparked a huge, tear-filled argument. I was in shock. I must have looked like a bystander on the side of the road who had just witnessed a horrible accident. I needed a medical professional or a police officer to come put one of those aluminum tinfoil blankets over my shoulders. Apparently, those helped a traumatized person recover from shock. But no one came. Since my feelings were gone and I had no will to care anymore, I slightly nodded and blinked a few times to show my understanding. Okay, you don't have to eat it. Nico and I will, I said, intentionally keeping my voice upbeat. I promptly went back to cutting strawberries with a pleasant look on my face. Staring down at the food, I didn't look at him again. Something deep inside my heart finally froze. He couldn't hurt me anymore. When brunch was ready, I opened the tiny kitchen drawer next to the sink. Who knew what that impossibly small drawer had been intended for? Maybe a cleaning sponge or one spatula? I pushed the button inside the drawer and heard the chime ring upstairs. Ding dong, ding dong. Then footsteps followed, and our son hopped down the stairs, skipping every other step. This was the best way I could think of to contact our son upstairs to summon him downstairs. The doorbell cost all of $20, and frankly, it made our lives much easier. I started making a plate for myself and one for my son, although I knew I wouldn't really be eating. I had lost my appetite months ago and ate only when I absolutely had to. I didn't have issues with food or diets or body image. The problem was food had lost its appeal. No matter what I ate, the flavors were bland, the textures strange as I chewed. I imagined the pancakes turning to sawdust in my mouth and was grateful we weren't grilling hot dogs, which felt like chewing on pencil erasers. Smiling and going along with the charade, I nibbled on some fruit and watched my son eat. It would be over soon. I would make a plan to leave with Nicholas. Or maybe Keller would leave so we could remain in the house. Either way, I couldn't continue living side by side as strangers any longer. All the fears and worries about our family becoming a broken home had vanished. It was already broken. So let come what will come, I thought to myself earnestly. A strength was growing inside me that had laid dormant for too long. I used to think marriages ended with loud screaming matches, where one person threw together a suitcase and stormed out of the house yelling, "I can't do this anymore." Then the other person would retort, "Neither can I," as they slammed the door and locked it. But I realized some marriages end in silence. Some marriages fade away like a whisper in the dark. So if you are interested in chapter 1 and you want to know what Brooke's journey is going to look like as she takes the path ahead, then I suggest you get my book. And then let me know what you think, because I would love to talk about it, hear about it, and anything you think about it. So thank you for listening, and I hope everybody has a beautiful day.